So this is just a small, I suppose, podcast kind of thing we're doing. Laura Carroll is new PRO, so she wants us to talk to a few people around the parish about their experiences with Burgess, and none other than Johnny Mulcahy has taken the step forward to go first. So I have a few questions to go through with Johnny, and we'll just have a general chat about Burgess. And I suppose we haven't been able to get up to the Kilcoman or that in a while, so it's good to get chatting with people around the club. So how are you getting on, Johnny?
Good, Paul. I'm fine. How was yourself?
Not too bad now. So I suppose, Johnny, when
Caconan since this time last year.
oh, stop, yeah. I suppose when would you have started hurling with Burgess?
Well, got to a long time ago now, Paul. We started it. Well, that time there was no under 12 age, but under 14 was when I first started. Yeah.
Yeah, and would that have been in Kilcoman now, or where would you have been training then?
No, sure. Kilcoman wasn't heard of at all at that time. It was back in. We used to do the training kind of in. There was a field down in Yohalara, and there was one in Carrickatoher there, where under Jeppy McDonald's house there, and then there was our hurling field at home in Gortmore. It's still known as the hurling field. They trained there for years until Kilcoman was bought and put going, you know.
And would you have played matches there now? Like, were they proper fields, or were they just?
And not, I know. Well, you wouldn't have championship matches. We had friendly matches, if you like, you know. Sure, there was no dressing rooms or anything, kind of, you know. Sure,
yeah.
No facilities like now, you know.
Yeah, big change now.
Pardon?
It's a big change
Our biggest treat was after a match. They were usually played in Nina in McDonough Park, but was down to Paddy Rohan's for orange and fig rolls. It was a big treat after the game.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose the orange changed something stronger then a few years later, I'd imagine.
But yeah, that was great times. There was under 14 rural and there was under 14 urban. Urban, we say urban rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was two competitions, and then there was a losers group as well. Now, most of the time, I suppose we ended up in the losers group. We had some great wins. In particular, over Tumivara, we gave them great hidings, which was a great achievement. And all the teams in North Tip we could overcome except Kilrowan and Aerogue Nina, and we got a few big beatings now from them over the years, you know. And it even, you know, they kind of transferred up to minor as well. We could never get over those, but the rest of them we could compete without no bother, you know.
Yeah, and when you went up then to like the adult grade, was Burgess intermediate at that stage, or what grade was it?
They were intermediate, yeah. They were never down to junior as such. No, they were intermediate, and we'd go up senior a few times as well. And well, after the minor, then there was the under 21 grade, and we were joined with Killanangan and won 2 county finals there back in the early 70s, you know.
Yeah.
And then I suppose the rest of the clubs didn't like you know. In fairness, was a huge pick. They were known as Nave Pottery, but it was a huge pick between the two parishes. And of course, it only lasted about the 2 years because all the other clubs, you know, objected that we were too strong, you know.
I can imagine.
I'm not saying to have continued, but as it happened, there was a great squad on both sides that time. You know, the two good intermediate teams, and all the young fellas would have been on them, you know.
Yeah. And would we have had lads like in with Tip at that stage? What lads around the parish would have been on that team?
Well, there was a few. Well, Liam Hogan anyway. The late Liam Hogan was on the Tip under 21 team, and. I can't really think of any. Well, there was a couple from Killanangan, there was Nicky Flannery, and there was John Dorsey, two that I can think of anyway as well, you know. Yeah. And Tip was a pretty good under 21 team that time.
Yeah, so you must have a fair old haul of medals, so do you?
Well, a lot more miraculous medals. Yeah, I have a county under 21. I was overage for the second year, and I have 2 Norths, I think, and we have the county junior, county intermediate, and county under 21. Yeah, and all tournaments in between. And actually, I have a football medal. I think it was the first football title that Burgess won. Yeah. It was a junior B, and we played Ballyhinch down in Borrisakane, and it was a row from start to finish. But there was no such thing as a sweeper that time. But you'd want to be able to mind yourself.
I'd say so. Yeah.
We had. I have the medal there to prove it, lovely medal. But I think I stand corrected, but I think it was the first football title that came to Burgess. You know, they won a few since, I'd say, all right, you know.
Yeah. Geez, you must have some great memories of playing.
Yeah, and they were all great memories. They were, I'm sure. I suppose, you know, there was great enjoyment out of it, and that time you had no psychologists or whatever you call them, all the hangers on that we have now. You know, just you go out there and we train during the week and great old crack afterwards, and go out and enjoy the game. And I often said, oh, let's, you know, it's different now. Like it's all high tech stuff and you know all that kind of thing. But you know, that time at half time now. Inside, I remember in Ina, and you'd be sitting, they wouldn't go to the dressing room, you'd sit on the sideline, we'd say at half time and have your bit of a drink of orange or whatever. But, you know, there was a good few of the team were smokers. And the fag be lit and to do the rounds around around the circle at half time, you know, that'll tell you how serious we took it. Other times then there was during the summer, there was a beer festival, Smithick's Beer Festival, it just took place down in Kilkenny. And it was always, I think, around the end of July, or it was always a championship game anyway, usually on the Sunday that we say to start on a Friday evening to finish on the Sunday evening. But, you know, you'd be inside in the dressing room counting to know were they all back from the beer festival or were we short a few, you know. But great, you know, great enjoyment out of it, you know what I mean? We won a few things, all right, but never, as Phyllis, never nothing major, you know. We won the county final in 1976, which was great, you know.
That was the intermediate county final, was it?
It was. Yeah, well, beat Kildangan in the North final after a replay, you know, our greatest rivals.
Yeah, and that must have been good. You would have played with a lot of them lads, so I suppose a few years before that.
Yeah, and they're under 21. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was a friendly rivalry, like, you know, but we always loved to beat them. And I don't think they ever beat us. I think they beat us one year in the first round, and maybe had to be winning. Then they got very cocky towards the North final. They thought they don't need to turn up. And the same year, Burgess beat him. It was after the replay that year. I forget, was it 1976, I'd say.
Yeah.
But Kildangan seemed to have got the upper hand of them since, you know, since they went to senior and so forth, you know.
Yeah. I suppose going through some of them games then, what was kind of the best one you remember in your head or your favourite game that you played in?
Well, I suppose I didn't play them all, Paul. I was sub now some of the time, but I remember winning the county final in 1976. It was a great achievement, you know. And of course the North final then over Kildangan as well. And there was great local rivalries. We said that time there was good for intermediate teams, and they were all kind of fairly even. You had Ballyhinchin, Ballina, Kildangan, Portroe, Templederry, and Shannon Rovers. It made for a great championship, you know. And nowadays, there's only 2 or 3 teams, and it shouldn't really a championship at all. But it was great. Yeah, it was great. But I said the 1976 county final would have been the highlight. Yeah.
Who was that against?
That was against Aero Gannicarty.
Okay. Yeah.
Foxes.
Yeah.
Some of them the same day, you know. Yeah.
Beat
Upper Church in the semi-final. And my brother Pat has been within a month of ordination, and just he got put off. And I don't think it was delivered, but he hit him on top of the head, but he had to go anyway. But poor old fellow Johnny Minahan was here at the time, and he'd done everything to try and get him out of it. But I don't know, did he get suspended for the county final? I'm not so sure now.
Yeah.
But I remember that particular day well. You know, with a great win over Upper Church. And Upper Church is a fine team, great team, yeah.
Yeah. Geez, I'd say you had to do a lot to get put off back in those days. Yeah,
well, you see, Paul, as well, there's no helmets, you know.
Yeah, also it looks even worse.
Yeah, the kind of look, he drew blood, like after the horn on the bullock. It probably looked maybe a bit worse than it was, but he often told me that he met your man several times since in Thurles, you know, and there was no hard feelings. And, you know, he didn't deliberately go to hit him, but just were the two, you know, it looked bad, you know.
Yeah, these things.
We won anyway, that was the main thing.
That's the main thing, yeah. There's a few questions there Laura wants to go through. One of them is your favourite Burgess goal.
Well, I was just looking at that the other night and reading. I'd say it was about 1960. I think it was 69, Paul. It was around that time. Burgess and the Mines in intermediate final in an awful bad wet day, you know.
Yeah.
And the Mines were overwhelming favourites, and at the time, and your Uncle Paddy now would remember it. At the time, there was all the guys they were all working in the Mogul in the silver mines, you know. And of course, there was huge betting went on in the game, and the Mines were red hot favourites to win it. And on the day, Burgess beat him, and Donny Nealon, he scored 2 goals. He got 2 21-yard frees, and an old soft. And at that time, the slits was a lot heavier than it is now, you know.
Yeah.
But he buried 2 of them, and he buried the mines as well. So it was a great win, you know. I'd say I think that was kind of the. Jim Barry scored a couple of good goals as well, but they were the ones that stand out for because only for Donny scoring them two, I don't think Burgess would have won it at all, you know.
Yeah. There's a similar enough question of the best Burgess score, but I'd imagine you could nearly class that as the same one.
Yeah. Well, there was a few, but that would stand out now all is because, you know, they were overwhelming favourites and nobody gave Burgess a chance and they pulled it off. Actually, very, very seldom, I think, that Burgess have been beaten in any intermediate final that they contested in the North, you know?
Yeah. The next one then is the best Burgess supporter. So we have a few good ones around the parish.
Yeah. Sure, there have been quite a few, Paul, and sure, they're still there. But late Jack Maher now was a great supporter, and sure, presently PJ Hogan, sure, he goes to every game as well. But the man I would rate, and maybe you don't remember him, but the man I would rate as the greatest Burgess supporter was Paddy Casey. Paddy was from Newtown, and he was the masseur at the time as well, you know. But often when you get a big beating, Paddy'd have the good word anyway, you know, and always turned up at every. But I know there's several great supporters, and there still are, but I think I'd give it to Paddy Casey. Yeah.
So I suppose with all the times he won matches and won finals and stuff, there was probably a few very good nights out, I'd imagine.
Yeah, well, there's one just only 2 years ago, Paul, and I was talking to your dad there last night. We were just discussing it, and it was the anniversary. I think it was the 40th anniversary of the 1976 county final victory inside in the Abbey Court there some couple of years ago, and it was a great record that after 40 years, all the panel, everybody was alive. You know, they were there.
Yeah.
And since that, I reckon about 6 have passed away since. You know,
Jenny.
So Micheál Mahurtig was down for the night as well. So that was my best Burgess night out, I think, you know.
Yeah.
We had other ones as well, but that one stands out. Yeah,
that was a great night. Geez, Micheál Mahurtig could still be talking. He was going on there for about an hour there on the same night, talking up on the stage.
That's right. And he came down for free, you know. Yeah. Too many wouldn't do, you know.
Yeah, some of the lads were mad to get to the bar, I'd say, after him. So I suppose one of the questions then is the best Burgess hurler. So of all the ones you played with, I suppose you would have played with a few good ones. Who would you kind of class as the top of the pile?
Well, I suppose that, you know, the standout player in Burgess always, I suppose, was Donny Nealon. You know, he won every honour that was to be won in the game. Sure, he's 5 All-Irelands and bag of medals, and you'd have to give it to Donny. There was other ones as well. The McDonalds were all great, and Jim Barry in Newtown, and you know, plenty of others. But I suppose in the heel of the hunt, and many a day he kind of won it on his own. I said Donny Nealon, Powell.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's not many more people in the parish with as many things won as he has. Not
at all. No, great man, sure.
Yeah. One of the questions interesting enough is the best person for a speech. So when you're in the match there and you're down a few points at half time, you need someone to rile the lads up. Who was doing that in your time?
Well, there were two. There was Donny as well. He was marvellous man to give a speech, and Andrew McDonald. Andrew was a powerful man to give a speech. You know, he put the hair stand in the back of your neck going out for the second half. You know, and I reckon lots of games were won by the speeches. You know, it always reminded me the unbelievables when they gave the speech to the dressing room. But them two boys were great motivators, great men to give a speech. You know.
Yeah. And one of the questions here is a time Burgess made you laugh.
A time Burgess made me laugh. Oh, jeez. Well, you know, the 3 times I think that Burgess made me laugh, and they were all niggly games. You know what I mean? There were 2 football matches anyway that I can remember, and there was a hurling game as well. Now the hurling game was Burgess and the Silver Mines in under 21. I think it was a semi-final inside in Nina. Lord God, all hell broke loose, and there was black eyes, and oh Jesus, it was. I mean, talk about, you know, yellow cards. He'd want to beg him the same day, or red ones, but it was a great laugh. Burgess won by a point or two. There was very little energy. But and then there was another hurling game now, as you mentioned as well. We played Newport one Sunday evening inside in McDonough Park in Nina. And there was a hullabaloo as well the same evening. And poor Noel O'Gorman got put off in Newport. Noel played with Tip. And I often met him since, and he often talks about it, but he's 100% that he was put off on the wrong, And
still to this day.
Poor father Johnny Minahan was on the sideline, and he went into the field the same evening, and there was hurley flying in all directions. I suppose it wasn't funny at the time, but looking back at it now, you laugh. My neighbour over the road here, he's Ned Ryan Og, a lovely man and a fine hurler he was at the time. He often talks about it, and he was playing full back that evening. There was a right melee out in the middle of the field, but nobody got put off. But poor Noel Gorman felt very hard done by anyway, And then the other ones that I can remember was a football game back in sometime in the 70s. We played Shannon Rovers, and either Rovers or Burgess wasn't great at the football, but and I forget the headline of the Guardian the week after, but a big melee started in the middle of the field as well. Everybody involved. And I remember I got a clip of the bush of deer there, and I was hinged out after I don't know who hit me. But he regained control of it anyway, and I forget who won. I heard it was us or Rovers won. And then
that was secondary, I'd say, for the whole thing.
The one I was telling you about, which we did win, was the one down in Borrisakane, the day that we won the junior football final, and there was fish flying in all directions. It was off the ball and never. It was, but everybody got home. Everybody got home safe out of it anyway. But they were the ones that make me laugh. Now you're probably going to ask me the ones that made me cry.
Yeah, I'd say there's a few of them as well. I'd say, was there?
Well, there's two all in particular, and the first one was losing to Kildangan in the North final in 2007. I did cry that evening. Now that.
In the North Senior Final, 2008, I'd say.
North Senior Final.
Yeah.
8 points up, and was 10 minutes to go, and didn't win it. And then, of course, we had the other one, then with Rogue Nina a year or two after, and Nina snatched the draw and won the replay,
Yeah. They were tough days now for the parish.
They were too bad, tough days, they were, yeah. And, the gas part about it is they had to win in both of them,
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. We were leading with 5 minutes to go in both of them games.
That's right. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So they were tough days.
Yeah. And speaking of all the fighting you're telling me about, there's a few hardy lads on the teams. Who would have been the lad you'd least like to mark, I suppose, on the Burgess teams down through the years?
Well, even in training, he knocked lumps off you. Liam Hogan. Yeah, he was a sticky and he was a fine hurler as well. But God, if we were marking him, you would know you were marking him,
Well able to look after himself.
Yeah, Liam, I'd say, but he was well able to look after himself, but well able to play hurling as well. And sure, the poor man passed away there a couple of years ago, but he played at all levels with Tip. He certainly played minor and under 21 anyway.
Yeah.
I remember him many, many years ago. I think it was his first year with minor with Tip. And he was marking Shawnee O'Leary of Cork inside in the Gaelic grounds in Limerick, I think Tip were beaten the same day, or beaten in both the senior and the minor, I think. But I remember Liam. That was he was only 17, I suppose, at the time,
Yeah.
But he played with Tip Intermediates as well, and he played under 21, he played minor, and he might have played a few games at senior too,
Yeah. I suppose
he was a great joke, Liam was. Yeah.
Coming on to the last few, it's your Burgess Dream Team. So of all the people you played with, you're 1 to 15, and I know it's probably a hard thing to do. You probably have to leave out a load of lads you would have liked to put in, but fire away.
Right, Paul. Just you look at just like the All-Star team or any teams that are picked. Nobody will agree with the full line out, but there was a good few now from Burgess that were left out. But I'll give you the ones that I picked out anyway, and for what it's worth. So in goal, I have Pat Murray. Now, Pat goes back to about the 40s, and I remember very well. He was terrific goalkeeper, marvelous goalkeeper. And then I have the full back line of Johnny Flynn, Dennis Maher, and Liam Hogan. Now they were the Hells Angels of North Tipperary at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I have great time for Johnny Mulcahy. I think he's a terrific hurler. So to accommodate Johnny Mulcahy, I put Johnny on the half back line, and there's Johnny Mulcahy, Pac Hogan, which is Liam's brother, and Michael McDonald, Carrigator.
Yeah.
And then I have the midfield in. I have the two Mahers. I know they can play anywhere, and to accommodate the few guys in the backs, then I had to switch them around. I have Donna Maher and Shane Maher in the middle of the field. And then we moved to the half forward line. I have John Dorsey. John won a tip minor All Ireland back in 80, I don't know what year, in some of the 80s anyway. Lovely hurler. And in my opinion, should have made the county senior team. But we have JP McDonald then and Donny Nealon. And then I have Stephen Murray, Jim Barry, and Mackie McKenna. Now, Mackie had most of his best hurling done when he came to Burgess, but he was a man with 4 All Ireland senior medals, and it'd be very hard to leave him off the team, you know. There was others then, Patsy Neal and Hughie McDonald, Gary Howard, Robert Gill, you know, lots of lads that you'd like to have on it as well, you know.
Yeah, and probably more even after that, yeah. Geez, that's a fair old 15.
But there was another question, didn't Paul? And you can finish now if you would like, but who did you think from Burgess should have played with Tip and never did?
Yeah.
And I think Stephen Murray fits the bill, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's a shame he didn't get a run, you know. I mean, that every second Sunday he's man of the match and huge scores put up, you know, and he never got a run even in the league.
No, or a call in or anything. I think I saw something there that he was the top scorer in the North Championship for the last 10 years or something. So, yeah,
absolutely, yeah, great hurler. I saw him one day and you were talking about good scores. Some couple of years ago, I forget who Burgess were playing. It was a Killer One or somebody. He against the wind, he scored a free from 90 yards out. You know, it was a great shot.
Yeah, no, geez, yeah.
And he seems to be able to do it every day he goes out.
Yeah. Yeah, geez, I'd say we're nearly gone through them all there now that Laura sent on anyway. So yeah, and we've 3 minutes, so we may as well wrap it up, Johnny. So thanks a million for that. You're the first man to step up. There's a few more lined up, so thanks a million for that.
No bother, Paul. You're welcome, and delighted to do it.
Yeah, thanks a million, Johnny. I'll just.
All right, bye bye.